Alright, what's going on guys, Liam here, and in today's video, I have a max PvP tier list for you guys. I've been wanting to do this video for a while now, but I figured I would wait and play on all 7 schools at 150 before I offer my opinion on what I think is the best, and I really just want to give you guys some insight on the current state of PvP as well. I'm working on a video for that coming in the next couple of days, but I think it's my job to kind of inform you guys with what's good, why it's good, and just, educate you guys, because that's what I like to do here on the channel. And real quick before we get into this, guys, I just want to say this is my opinion. This is my view. So if you don't agree with that, that's fine. I'm not attacking your opinion. And I'd really appreciate it, guys, if you drop a like and maybe sub to the channel. If you're new around here, I've been posting daily Wiz content for 5 months now. And I've been streaming daily for, I think, about 3 or 4 months now. Right now I'm kind of sick, actually, which does suck, but, yeah, I don't know. Without further ado, let's get right into the video, guys. Alright, so coming in at the number 7 spot, I think I'm gonna have to place the Balance Wizard. Now, some of you guys might have saw this coming, some of you guys might be like, yo, what? And I'm gonna jump into detail right away, but I think Balance, honestly, is kind of in a rough spot right now. With mana burn being nerfed, a lot of players have to learn how to actually play the game without it, which I do think is a great thing. I think this was long overdue. However, in my opinion, I think the bigger problem with Balance right now is they can't Solar Surge their shads, obviously. So cards like Gaze do like negative damage, and even Mock for that matter. I'd probably recommend taking your Mock up to 7 pips, so you do have a decently strong hit on the Balance Wizard. But that combined with, honestly, you can't just hidden bubble at, your free will, like all the 6 other schools. You have to dump a shad on it, which I kind of think is kind of stupid, because Balance is supposed to be the control school, right? It should have the most access to bubbles, There's no power pit bubbles anymore. If there were, you still technically wouldn't really gain anything from it. So you're kind of left in a place where you can only 4 pit bubble 4 times, and Gaze is kind of bad because it requires a whole shad. So let's say you use 4 bubbles, and then you Gaze twice in a row because you only have 2 shads. That's 6 bubbles, right? But your opponent could also bubble 4 times, and then, just hit and bubble literally at free will, like every other turn, right? So I think, the Surge nerf hit Balance pretty hard. I think the Burn nerf hit Balance pretty hard. And I think their ability to not be able to hold bubble as easily as some other schools really holds them back. However, I will say, I think Balance is probably one of the most skillful schools in the game to play right now. One of the more difficult ones. And I think it should be that way because, Balance is kind of the outlier school in Wiz. And yeah, I don't know, guys. That's just my opinion. Feel free to let me know if you guys agree or not. And let's get onto the number 6 spot. Coming in at number 6 here, I think I'm going to have to place the Ice. I know I did just put Balance and Ice as the 2 last ones. I know last meta, they were kind of like, busted in like the top 3. However, times change, metas change, so here we are. Right now, in the current state of Wiz PvP, there's a bunch of toxic stuff allowed in ranked, There's PvE strategies, there's 1 pip Steel Ward TCs, there are Jades, and really no penalty for life who want to heal over and over, or Guardian Spirit for that matter. I am well aware KI did ban, -90, and a couple of other toxic things like that stuff, and they put a slight timer penalty, I think, on Guardian. I'm not sure how that works, but, everyone I've played who's done it has done the exploit, so it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, anyways, let's get back on topic. I think Ice just really struggles to do damage, and I actually think Ice, not being able to Solar Surge their bombs is a good thing. I don't think Ice should get that much damage and get, a shield, a card that's good in literally every good matchup. And not to mention, if you run Cannon with Ice, your Weaver can do so much, right? So much, dude. And you can just use other cards like Colossus, Lord of Winter. You actually can put in some decent work on an Ice, and you have the 35 bubble, limpets, which basically is 2 free bubbles. Your opponents have to hit in bubble twice to even be equal. So ice has very easy access to bubbles and stuff like that. They still have some absolutely cracked health, HP, you know, damage, pierce, block, yada yada. Very tanky school, very easy to play, but I'm putting it this low because there's not much of a skill ceiling to ice, you know. You can't really tell a good ice from a bad ice for the most part, unlike a lot of these other schools I'm going to be listing. A balance would be a good example of that. You can tell a very good balance player from a not so good balance player, but with an ice, it's kind of all generic, it's all the same, and in this meta, you really struggle to get any sort of damage in, unfortunately, even with the bubble control. It's kind of hard. You can put in some work if you do win the bubble war. If your deck goes fine, you know, anybody can put in work like that, though. It's not really anything too special. But, I don't know. That's really all I gotta say about Ice, guys, is it's really weak, and I do think that's what Ice should be, so I'm happy with it. However, I think it's just at the number 6 spot because of how prevalent and how good life is right now in the current meta of Wiz. But yeah, let's get onto the number 5 spot, guys. So coming in at the number 5 spot, I have Death. And I never thought I'd put Death above Ice and Balance, but you know, here we are. Times change, boys. Death, I think, got a lot of love this update, you know. Threefold, they're basically one of the only schools that can counter healing and jading and stuff like that. So it's pretty good right now, but I do think the other schools on the tier list here are a lot better and more consistent. Death now can use Wraith. You can just honestly send a Wraith anytime with a couple of buffs, get a ton of HP back and damage value, as well as, you know, you set up your Scion fairly easy, and you can also set up a Monster Mash. You can just take so much free damage and drain it off later if they trade. It's a very, very solid school, and it is getting its, you know, love that it kind of has deserved for a while now. Not to mention, their Shad is probably the best Shad in this update, in my opinion. If you get this all the way up to 8 pips, which I don't have it yet, unfortunately, it does about what an old Solar Surge Winged did, but you get 2 better weaknesses. And I know it's 2 extra pips, but I think that damage value really does matter, and those turns of tempo do matter on a school like Death. So I'm happy with this, and honestly, actually, not to mention, let's say they take one of these off, right? Let's say I have a threefold on them, and I do this, they have 5. Let's say they want it one off, I can still theoretically Scion or Monster Mash, right? There's a lot of stuff Death can do, and I think that's a good place to have it. You know, you can go for a Drain strat, you can do Monster Mash, now you have a good Shad, you know, you can go for some Gambits, and their stats aren't terrible at all. Like, my stats, I mean, they're kind of like, this is a PV, this isn't like, this is like a turquoise build, is what I meant to say, sorry chat, but yeah, I don't know, their stats are just really solid, especially with Motorist Robe as well. But even running turquoise and not getting shads, like this extra pierce and damage will let your drains do a lot more, and that block you lose will get drained back for the most part. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna leave Death here. I think it's a good spot. I think it's a good school. It's a very fun school to play as well. I just don't think it's as consistent or competitive as the other ones we have here on the list. But yeah, let's get onto the next spot, boys. So coming in, I think at the number 4 spot now, I'm gonna have to place Myth. Myth is still a very, very solid school. I think Myth has been always, you know, one of the top schools in the game. I've only played for a year though, guys, so you know, don't take that as like, oh my god, like this guy thinks he knows everything. You know, dude, just every meta I've seen ever since I started playing exactly 1 year ago, I've seen Myth just rain terror, just rain on top. And yeah, Myth, honestly, this update got so much good Rochambeaus. You can play aggressively, you know, convert set shields to traps, Ellie shields to traps, yada yada. You can steal ward those shields as well, so you can be defensive, offensive, and not to mention, you don't really have to worry about blades with Earthquake and stuff like that. However, I still would recommend running like a Death Mastery for Putrefaction. It just is a pretty cool card, and it gives you a lot of utility and tempo. But yeah, that, and also with the weakness counter that Myth has, it kind of just counters Death. So that's why I'm putting Myth above Death. Myth kind of just counters Death right now, and it's a really solid school, honestly. A lot of the matchups, a Myth can win literally against anybody now, and I think that's a very good thing to have in the game. You know, like, if you want to play well and, you know, beat almost anybody, Myth is probably your school to go to. Like, I think a good example is Myth v Storm. You know, that used to be kind of one-sided last meta, for the most part, right? Like, just King Art Yaga win, lol, right, dude? So, now, it's actually a very fun matchup. And honestly, from my experience on a Myth and on a Storm, you know, when I'm on my Storm playing a Myth, or I'm on my Myth playing a Storm is what I meant. Honestly, they've all been good matches, unless people are running PvE strategies, and at that point, they're not really playing the game, so it doesn't really matter. It's a very skillful school, very skillful matchup, and I honestly am very happy with Myth. I wish a lot more schools could be like this, where, you know, if you're very good at it, you can win a good 90% of the time, and if you're bad at it, just get better at the game. I feel like KingsIsle really needs to be a lot more strict with stuff like that, you know. If you're not good enough, you're not good enough, man. If you're, you know, if you cheat and exploit, you're banned. Like, there should be consequences, you know, dude. But anyways, I hope that made sense, guys. And I'm gonna leave Myth here because, again, I just think it's just so versatile. You can just run in, literally slap anybody with a good deck, playing well. Your new Shad does a lot of damage, especially the 8-pip. This does just as much as a Solar Surge Drossalka, I believe, actually, when you get this to the 8-pip version. So Myth is just absolutely cracked with this new Shad, and not to mention all their other utilities. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it here on the list. Let's get onto the top 3, number 3 spot, boys. Alright, so coming in at the number 3 spot, we have my baby, my one true love, besides the waifu, of course, the Storm Wizard. Now, if you guys have been watching my channel for a while now, I think you guys kind of know, I love Storm to death. I think it's in a good spot right now, to be honest, and I'll talk about that why in a minute. But yeah, I don't know, man. Storm honestly has come quite a long way from the Maycast meta. They got like a hidden bubble and stuff like that. They actually have decent stats, but compared to a fire, it's still kind of obsolete. So we'll talk about that a bit later in the tier list. But yeah, Storm's gotten a lot of love, honestly, and I've kind of found a couple of strats and, you know, ways to play it where, for the most part, you can win almost any matchup, and really all that comes down to is just, you know, outvaluing your opponent, really, you know. If you're gonna have like 3,000, 2,000 less HP than almost everybody else, you know, you're gonna have to play well. There's not really any room for errors, and I absolutely love stuff like that in games, whether it's Wiz or, like, you know, a Call of Duty. I love it when, you know, skill matters and there's hardly any room for error, and Storm is one of those schools. That's if you don't play Toxic, that's if you don't do PvE, Steel Ward, or what's that other thing, like Wild Bolt, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, it's so good because, like, you got cards like Stormwing. If you send like a Stormwing, bro, enchanted with like a bubble or something, bro, that does like 2k, and then you're double buffs. So if they do bubble, then you have a buffed enchanted hidden bubble. It's crazy, bro. The best advice I can give to you guys as a Storm is just play smart, try and outvalue your opponents. Be sure you're getting your best bang for your buck in terms of combos and, you know, spending your pips and stuff like that, guys. I know a lot of you guys watch me on the channel just for Storm, actually, which I kind of find it funny. I find it kind of funny, but yeah, I really do appreciate all the love, guys. I do, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I never thought I'd put Storm in top 3, but KingsIsle really has buffed it up quite a bit, guys. And Rosolka still does what, 1350, and a Surge Owl actually does the old Surge Rosolka damage. So you literally have so much good ways to, you know, outplay your opponent, get a lot of damage value in. It's a very solid school, and especially in the meta of Jades, I think the hardest hitting school kind of can have something to say about that. But yeah, guys, let's get onto the number 2 spot here in the tier list. Alright, so coming in here at the number 2 spot, I think I have to put the Life Behemoth. Now, some people might be surprised by this. I know there's a lot of Life people who think Life is trash right now, and I personally disagree. I've been pretty vocal about this here on the channel, but I'm gonna talk about why I think it's good right now. And I'm assuming, chat, I'm just saying that, I'm assuming this tier list is basically made for down the line when they nerf Jading, when they nerf Steel Ward, yada yada. I'm just looking into the future when the game is balanced, Life can get, honestly, some crazy stats. I don't have the stuff on me right now, but you can always get 12k HP with 60 res and 130 damage. Then, not to mention that, you have cards like Lumi, which is just absolutely ridiculous, A surged buff Lumi will literally do 1500 damage. So, 2 of those, right? 2 of those, and a Storm is just about halfway dead, That's just kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. Am I saying Lumi's OP? No, not really, but I do think there should be a cap on certain cards like this, like the bubble copies, stuff like that. Then there's also other ways Life can play. They can run like 70 freaking resist with 11k HP and just heal a crap ton and Lumi spam. So I'm putting Life up this high because it's a good school, but a lot of people don't want to give it credit for that. With their HP, with the amount of resist they have while still having very, very offensive stats, and having the Life Lumi pet that's just a 35 for 3 life hits. You can put in so much work on a Life, but unfortunately, I think a lot of people are just lazy and just don't know how to play better on Wiz. They think because it's like the healing school that they should be, allowed to heal for 20,000 or like 10,000, bro. Like, I don't know, man. That's kind of absurd. That's kind of absurd if you ask me. I do have a tournament coming up pretty soon. I just want to announce that, I guess. And in the tournament, the way we actually are balancing the healing, if lives are going to be in there, is you can't heal more than twice. So there's a 2 heal cap, and those heals can't exceed 4k HP. Because if you think about it, if you're starting off with almost 12k with cannon stats and 60 res, if you heal for 4k, that's like 15, 16k damage your opponent has to do, and then you just have to do the standard 8k, So, I don't know. I think Life is a very solid school, and I think people just don't want to give it the love it deserves. And I think even Ratbeard, I know people like to joke about Ratbeard, but I think even Ratbeard is starting to see that. Like, it's a pretty solid school. I don't really think it needs any more love. One thing I will say, though, is I think they should probably re-audit, the TC heal ban. I don't really heal in my life, as you guys know. I just like to play better. That's how I like to play Wiz. I like to earn my win. I like to just play better. No cheesy stuff, that's how I enjoy it. I'm a very competitive person, so that's the way I see it, And even me, not healing, I still packed 1 or 2 satyrs inside, just basically to use one if I deck failed or something like that. And that's only like a 1400 heal. So I do think they should maybe, audit it back and look into other ways to nerf Jades, because with how it is right now, you have to pack the heals in main deck, and that just clogs your deck quite a bit. But at the same time, I do kind of like that, because then people just can't spam Surge Delumies and, do 3 Surge Delumies, and all of a sudden I've done 5k and debuffed you for 3 turns, dude? I don't know. It kind of goes both ways, and I think a lot of people are just being upset about it. But yeah, I think Life is solid, guys, and I don't know. I kind of thought about putting it at number 1, but I do think Life requires a lot of skill to play very well, very efficiently, and I think a lot of people just don't really possess that, unfortunately, in the game. So I'm gonna leave it at number 2. Very solid school, very underrated in my opinion, and let's get onto the number 1 spot here. Alright, so coming in at the number 1 spot, if you had half a brain cell, you probably could have figured this out. Either because, you could do the process of elimination or whatever. I said the 6 other schools, you know the 7th, right? Or you know, that fire has just been one of the most broken schools in Wiz for at least the past year since I've played it. I don't know. Again, and I don't want you guys to be like, oh, you're a fire hater. You hate my main school. Like, no. Fire actually was one of my first 2 schools I made. I like the school. I like the concept of it. I think it's a cool school. I think it's a great school. But it is, honestly, slightly overtuned. Now, the 2 main problems with Fire... Well, actually, there's 3, but... one is their stats. They have literally the same stats as a Storm, but they get a whole bracket more of HP. They get cards like Ifrit, which is just better cards, you know. They have cards like, what, Nautilus. I guess, you know, Storm has Catch, but that's pay to win. Nautilus is pay to win, sorry. And, I don't know. They have Heffy as well. A buffed Heffy does 2k to a Storm, and a buffed, Hidden Bubble for a Storm does 1k. So, for 1 pip, a Fire is doing a whole 1k more damage when they already start off with 1,000 more. So, it's kind of ridiculous, and I know a lot of people like to be like, oh, Liam, it's a lore spell, it's 1 more pip. But guys, if you're balancing a game, 1 pip on a weaker school should not equivalent to a whole rack more of damage. Like, I'm sorry, that does not, like, make any sense, right? So, yeah, we covered Heffy, and their stats, like, you get 10k HP with, like, 140 damage, which is stupid, and you have about the same Pierce as a Storm, a smidge less, like, about 2 less, but with how much more damage they get, I don't really think it matters that much, right? And, the last thing I want to talk about is Salamander. I'm not sure why this card hasn't been nerfed yet. There's a lot of people who just run in Q Mander like 5 times and, you know, just call it a day. I think this card is, you know, overdue a nerf. I think it's cool for Fire to have something like this. I am, you know, I'm supportive of the idea of having, you know, a 5-6 pip solid overtime card on the overtime school. However, I think the first end does way too much. Like, a buffed Mander with a crit does a whole rack just on the first end, you know? And in total, it does about, like, 3.5k, and it's like, wow, bro. 1 buffed Mander on a Storm can do 1/3 of my health, or almost half of my health, bro. It's kind of nuts, dude. It's kind of nuts. So, the way I would nerf this is I'd probably half the starting damage. I'd take it from 200 to 100. You still do get the full value of the Surge. Obviously, it's a 6 pip hit, but then I would either A, leave the back end, or B, I would buff the back end. So I would nerf the front end by 100, and then I'd maybe buff the back end by 50. So it would be 100 damage and then 680 overtime. I think that's still pretty solid for a school like Fire. I think that's a better way to go. And yeah, I don't know, guys. That's really all I have to say about Fire, and that's really about it for the tier list. If you guys made it this far, I appreciate you guys for staying for the whole video and listening, and I'd really appreciate it if y'all left a like on the video. I've been working my ass off, you know, trying to get these videos out for you guys every day, and streaming, and trying to, you know, manage my life, you know. I'm just like basically a kid still, you know, just trying to make his way, and I'd really appreciate it, guys. And yeah, I should have a commentary talking about the state of PvP coming in the next couple of days. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, I do appreciate the support a lot, guys. It's really honestly kept me going, and you guys mean a lot to me, more than you'll probably ever know, if I'm being honest. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. As always, take care, guys.